All right. This is
Right.
Baruch and Noah, episode 2. And today we're talking about how to keep chaos out of our home. We are going to talk about the gut brain barrier versus boundaries in our own home, between our loved ones, between us and our parents, our jobs, our bosses. And we are starting a discussion about what are the healthy boundaries in the role there at a macro level. We also know that the tight junctions in the biologic systems are the gatekeeper that keeps chaos out of our internal system. So what is the gatekeeper that keeps chaos out of our physical world? So Brooke, I remember that Dr. Zach Bush talked a lot about the tight junctions, which are kind of like a system of Velcro that holds the individual cells to all of its neighbors, per se. And further, we know that the tight junctions are ultimately the gatekeeper that would create healthy boundaries between biologic systems. So the biologic event where my gut, between my gut where I put my food and my water and my microbiome thrives across this small boundary of a single cell layer, and that cell layer that separates the world of our gut to the world of the entire of our body. So this is actually a true human boundary event, and these boundaries are meant for us to thrive. That said, I don't think that I was great at setting boundaries in my physical world, between my family or with work relationships. And I only learned about this magical biological event that is happening. And right after that, I gave myself permission to say more no, but without the drama, without being reactive, and actually know that by me saying no, I actually say yes to a lot of other things. So I wanted to pick your brain and see what you thought about it.
Yeah. Well, I love how it took you kind of to learn about the boundaries of our biological system, and that like at the cellular level, we are just a bunch of boundary events. Like that's what's keeping our entire body thrive, is being able to, for our cells to know at that level of what needs to come in so the cell can do its job and what needs to stay out. And that's what keeps the cell thriving. And, that's what I think, just all that we've learned through Dr. Zach, with as the micro, so is the macro, that it's so true. And, what a beautiful way to see that in just the boundaries that our cells automatically know to set. Like the cell knows that it's part of the whole and that it needs to communicate with all the other cells around it, the cells that are like it, the cells that are completely different than it, but it has its own unique identity. And us too, from the macro level, like we need community. We thrive with diversity and learning from others, and taking in their energy and sharing in that. At the same time, we need to maintain our own identities, and we need to understand where it is that we draw our power from and our energy, and what our role in this whole entire system is, right? So I think that, when you take that idea of like the cell thrives by understanding its identity and knowing how to set those boundaries and keep those boundaries, it's like where in our lives do we need to set those boundaries? And not in some, I don't know, I kind of think like sometimes the word boundary can maybe seem a little off-putting. It's like, oh, you've reached my boundary, you've stepped over my boundary, like back away. But it's not that at all. It's just that, we need to be conscious of what it is we allow out, what we allow in. And it's that It's understanding what that is for us and being fully conscious of that allows us to each individually thrive and thrive as a community, right? Like when we kind of lose our identity of self, like none of us thrives. The whole body breaks down, the whole system breaks down. So yeah, I think that that's such an empowering way to look at how we're setting boundaries in our life. So how is that, how do you feel like that plays out in your life, and how, learning those boundaries? And
well, I remember it was such an amazing learning curve. And like you said, it gave me the permission to be able to say no. And funny enough, to justify it biologically, that's what's happening in my cells naturally. And before, I remember before learning about it, I used to feel really bad about saying no to my kids. I felt like, the bad guy, and what parent wants to feel like the bad guy all the time. But now I do give myself that permission, and I do allow my own intuition to guide me. And that said, when I say no to my kids now, I know that I'm supporting them in their own road to overall wellness. And sometimes I do need to remember that I'm still work in progress, right? It's about progress, not perfection. And that if one of our kids asks me, but why not, mommy? I better have a really authentic answer, and not an imprint of my mom or my dad, or, a trauma trapped in my body, which is the reason why I'm saying no. So it has to be in the present moment, with the right facts, with a scenario that is in front of me, and not in a scenario that is perhaps is stuck in me, right? Going to emotion code a little bit. So when one of our kids asks me why not, I really need to think about it. And sometimes I do change my mind. Sometimes I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. I trust you and you can do it. And then, I can put some restriction to it. If it's gaming, if it's, electronics with our kids, and, I put a timer, I put 20 minutes on, and I said, okay, yes, absolutely, you can do that. But you can do it after you do your homework. You can do it after you eat your lunch, and you can do it only for 20 minutes. This way, I feel like I'm really empowering them to make decisions down the road when they're older. And I work through my own cultural and lineage imprints, and I consciously try and separate what I heard my parents say to me back in the day, their no's, and their relationship with my kids when I say no, and it needs to be indeed a no from that present moment. Just going back to Eckhart Tolle's idea of every moment is an opportunity to evolve, and amen to that, for not being perfect, for being able to say no, being able to be wrong and be okay with that and move on.
Children definitely give you plenty of opportunities as using the present as a time to evolve.
Yes.
But that's it's like finding the intention, right? Like what is my intention in saying no? And is it like, does it really support them, or is there, or is there something that I'm just saying no because my parents told me no, that I couldn't do that? Or I love that. It's like that always being present. I remember my always hearing as a kid, like, I would ask something and I'd hear no, and then it was the answer, why no? And it was because I said so. And it's like, and, I totally respect that, like, it's, there's the parent-child dynamic of like, the parent knows what's best, and you don't always need to necessarily provide an explanation. But at the same time, like, it's like, maybe it is, it's taking the step back and they need to understand how to one day set their own boundaries, right? So the more that they can understand where you're coming from with a no, is it something safety related? Is it something health related? Is it, it's always there. And we've seen this play out in our own society as a whole. There's this like fine dance between freedom and safety. And, you know, where are we allowing them to be their free selves, but yet still ensuring that, you know, they're not doing something that's going to cause permanent harm, because they're children, they don't really fully understand things. So yeah, it's constantly that coming back within yourself and becoming conscious of like, you know, what am I saying, rather than just dropping the program of like, no,
Right.
like these are the boundaries because they just are. Because I think too, like, it's also maybe creating in them like their opportunities, like just because something was one way, does it always need to be that way? So it's allowing them to think for themselves too, like where, you know, and I don't know, do you find that there's like opportunities? I mean, my little girl is still so young, so, but I want her to understand, like with food, for instance, she wakes up and she wants cookies for, for breakfast. And I'm like, no, we can't have cookies for breakfast. And, you know, I try to explain it to her, but like, it's like, is there opportunities? And I mean, do you have any of this with your kids where it's like, maybe if she can understand that when she has cookies for breakfast and she gets a big sugar rush, like later, she's not going to feel well. So it's like, you know, finding those opportunities there of learning why, not just from like me telling you, but like experiential learning of this is why I said no. Do you feel, or maybe saying yes sometimes, and then how did that make you feel? I don't know. Do you have
Right.
any thoughts there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I try to teach my kids what works for them and to have them observe what doesn't really work for them, especially when it comes to food. We try to eat really, really clean. And I just told you the story the other day. Our girl's kindergarten teacher came out to my car when I was doing a pickup. And she said, I am so happy you decided to change your mind about the lunch menu. I was like, what is she talking about? She said, well, your little girl told me that it's okay for her to eat from the cafeteria. And in my mind, it's like, cafeteria food is like crap. Like it's not, no bueno at all. Like that's not even like, you know.
I just saw a post today on cafeteria food.
Oh my gosh, it's one of my struggles and one of my missions, you know, it's to change the cafeteria. But put that aside, I was like, okay. And my little girl is in the car, so I didn't want to embarrass her. And I kind of played along. It's like, oh, okay, interesting. So what did you choose to eat from the cafeteria food? And my girl said, well, you know, I like beans. She loves beans. That's like her main protein. And I said, yeah. So what did you have? She's like, so I had a cheese burrito. I was like, and her teacher's like, did she have any diarrhea? Did she have any symptoms? Because in their school records, it says no gluten, no dairy. And I said, no, I didn't notice anything, but it's super inflammatory. And that's not something I want her to eat day in and day out. And so back home, we had a conversation. I said, well, how did that make you feel? And she said, it felt like she has a gum in her throat. I said, well, that's the mucus coming from the cheese that's probably not even real cheese. So I said, how about you clean up the cheese and you can eat your bean burrito instead? She's like, I can't, it's already stuck to it. I said, okay, what other options are there? She said, well, there's peaches. I said, that's great. There's strawberries. That's great. There's that. I said, yeah, so you have plenty of options. But she was looking for the option that she can't get at home. And that's where I have to step back and say, she's 5 years old. She's very mature. She knows. She knows what's good for her, what's not so good for her. She'll argue her case, and that is okay, because we are raising independent, persistent, slightly argumentative, children, because if they need to get at the bottom of things, they can't just take no for an answer. They have to ask why not. And I like that. I encourage that. So that was my, my boundaries, not boundaries recent event.
Yeah. No, I love that. You're like allowing her to help make that decision and those boundaries. Because one day she's going to, I mean, if like you can't keep your kids in a
No.
bubble. So they're going to have to learn how to handle, outside influences. So it's not just going to be your influence. Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful how you handled that. So, and
And on the other hand, our middle child had a lot of challah bread during the holidays, and we don't eat gluten at home. I mean, if they occasionally have it, that is okay. If they have it outside of the house, that's okay. But she had 2 challah breads, and she couldn't stop sneezing right after that. Like, it's cause and effect, like right after. It's like, okay, it's the gluten. And I said to her, I apologize, that I apologize that I didn't pay attention earlier, but now what do you feel? She said, I don't feel good. I said, okay, so why do you think that is? And she said, I think I have sensitivity to gluten. I said, yeah, maybe a little piece would have been better than 2 big challah breads. So she is making that, that correlation. She's making that cause and effect scenario for herself. That's really encouraging.
Yeah, that's great. That's like the ultimate, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
To have them figure that out for themselves. Yeah. Just kind of like on that same note of boundaries, because it's like there's the boundaries where it's kind of the not rule, I don't want to say rules, but like foods and different things we eat. But like then there's also just like boundaries of I'm trying to think of like just family boundaries and friend, like it's like for instance with me, and I love my family to death, and if anyone was to listen, I'm sure they would agree, like my parents are divorced. There's a lot of drama there, a lot of things that I don't necessarily want to recreate in my home, I guess is the sense. So I feel like in the past, and I've had to be a little bit more firm on my boundaries, and I don't know, it's like as I've have my own family, and I guess gotten more kind of like, what's the word, like secure with who I am and kind of what it is that I'm wanting to not create, but like keep sacred, to really just keep sacred, because that's really what boundaries are. And we can talk about that too. But I feel like it's more of an energetic thing now. And that's what I've been kind of like really thinking about, is like boundaries really at the core, just like everything, is energy. And the more that I feel like I can kind of connect in with like my energy, like I feel like my family and maybe even my friends to an extent too, it's like that, like I feel like they don't need to ask, like there's certain things that I'm not going to entertain as far as a discussion, I guess. And it can just be left unsaid. And, there's things that maybe we won't agree on, or there's different ways of looking at it. But it's like the more that I really am clear in myself, and it doesn't mean, again, like I'm always growing and always changing. So it doesn't mean that I'm not willing to process new information, but just in general about even silly things. Like I don't know, there's certain things I'm not going to be dragged into certain drama, or have discussions that seem really petty, or I don't know. So I just love that idea of boundaries as like truly an energetic thing. And when you're like truly standing in your power, those boundaries don't have to be said as much. Like,
right.
I'm not going to discuss, it's just kind of goes unsaid.
Yeah.
Does that make sense at all?
Yeah. I think on an energetic level, on a cellular level, that's exactly it. I think you get to summon into your lives the experiences that you are a match for. Frequency wise, you start bringing people into your life that will help you rise up, and not those that will bring you down. And as far as drama concerns, coming from the Middle East, it's a lot of drama. So if I were to still live back in Israel, it's a lot of drama. And family is always drama, I think, whether it's from the Middle East or anywhere else in the United States.
Well, yeah.
You know,
Wherever you are in the world,
wherever you are,
drama with your family.
But I feel like there is enjoyment in that. Not for me, when I stepped away from it, people really enjoy dwelling in other people's business.
Yes.
That is what they speak about. And so when I made the decision to no longer do that, and to step aside and to expand myself as a human being rather than sink with that boat of drama and nonsense that doesn't resonate with me anymore, I had to put verbal boundaries. Like I love my mom, just like you love your family. I love my mom, I love my family. But at some occasions at the beginning, when I was starting to really pay attention to that, my mom used to say a few things. Oh, do you know that this or that person is doing this or that? I said, I'm going to stop you right here. If you want to talk about it, I'm not the right audience. I'm not going to do it. So, and she kept on going. It's like an autopilot, right? She doesn't even she keeps on having her spiel to me. And I said, Mom, you're not listening. I will hang up on you if you keep talking about that person. And in Hebrew, we call it lashon hara. That means gossiping. If that person that you're talking about is not in the room, you shouldn't talk about him or her. You shouldn't. It's one of the biggest, I wouldn't say sins, but it's one of the biggest mistakes we can do as human beings, to judge someone else. And unless you walk in his or her shoes, he or she should not be talked about. Right? At least have the respect of having that individual in the room so that they can present their case, quote unquote. But all this drama and talking about someone else and just dragging the frequency down to a point where you're like swimming upstream, through a mud, I no longer want that. And you know what? My mom changed her way. She doesn't do it anymore. Yeah. And if she occasionally asks me to say something to my sister because my brother, all of that, then I said, no, you go ahead and say it directly to her. I'm not going to get involved unless she calls me directly and asking for my help. That has to do with her. I'm not getting involved. And my mom got it. And we no longer have the down spiraling, low frequency vibration conversations.
That's great. And just, I can't remember what it was, but I was listening to a podcast recently and they were talking about gossip and stuff. And that it really is if you think about it, it makes sense. It's a way to connect. I mean, people, and it does. And it's did you
what
see
she did?
Yeah. And I mean, it does. It's it's such a natural way, but at the same, it's we can evolve out of that. It's such a, it's a part of our DNA, I think, that runs really deep, that it's kind of okay, where is this serving us as a whole? And it's, I think that, when you understand the law of attraction, and it really is that sort of thing. And the wanting to keep your energy high and vibrating at that high level, talking about people and behind their backs, and going back to our children. I actually, funny that we said, I was having this conversation with my cousin-in-law this past weekend, but her daughter was having drama with some of her friends and stuff, and I told her, I was I think that, and it seems to be a girl thing, I hate to say that, but they're picking up things from their mom,
And we are their first role model.
Exactly. So it's we might want to teach our children, it's not good to talk, to not be inclusive, or to not do this. But like when, you know, we're over there gossiping about this person, or, oh my gosh, did you see this? Like they're picking up on that. Like
Absolutely.
So yeah, just from that level too, it's like,
Absolutely.
let's, yeah. And
yeah,
you know,
psychologically, we know that the father is the first role model of the boy, and the mother is the first female role model of the girl. And, you know, it's do as I say, not do as I do, right? And it should be exactly do as my vibration does, right? Do as my vibe leads me to do, because they can read between the lines, right? And we talked about it many times before, like how I'm acting with other people and how I am in my core with other people, family members, friends, is exactly what they will see and exactly what they will try to imitate later on in life. And of course, there's other environmental influences, right? Because they're at the age where they can watch TV and they go to school now. So yes, they'll see other kids behaving in a certain manner, but they will know that it is, if it resonates with them because of what they see and follow in the household, or if it does not, right? So everything that we are and are not are that first imprint for our children, and that is so precious. I mean, no pressure there, but you know, so precious.
Yeah. But the good news is it's like the more that we just connect in, like we were talking about in our, you know, with the beat, it's like the more we can just learn how to be ourselves and like be completely conscious, then the easier our job becomes to just to be that. And then they will assimilate that beingness automatically. Yeah,
absolutely. And it has to do with also self-worthy. So we talked about boundaries in our personal life, that I had to learn how to say no with my kids. But interestingly enough, I had no issue saying no within my professional settings, right? Because you know, I didn't allow myself to take any crumbs my way, but I wanted the whole cake. So, you know, saying no to a certain promotion that didn't seem right to me was always easy for me to say no, or a certain sum of money for this or that project was okay for me to say no. I never regretted that, because I think that sense of self-worthy is in me, even though it's a daily practice, right? Everything is a daily practice. Spirituality is a daily practice. Just like going to the gym, you're not going to build your muscles and leave the gym, quit the gym. It doesn't work like this, right? Everything is a daily reminder, a daily practice. And how we set up our day is how we are intended for it to be. And we can cope with whatever is coming our way because we are ready, right? We're ready internally, emotionally, physically, we are ready for the day.
Yep. Yeah, the more that you are clear on what your purpose and mission is in life, then the more you can know, you know, this is for me and this is not for me. And I think that's like really cool that you were able to know from a professional standpoint that like, yeah, I'm keeping my eyes here. Because if you think about it, I mean, we all have things thrown at us, you know, like, oh, what about this over here, this shiny thing, or this shiny thing, or go here, go here. And it's like, no, like I know what I know what I'm going towards, and everything else just kind of becomes a distraction. And it is boundaries. It is boundaries of like, I know what is for me and what's not for you. As much as you want to give it a shiny, you know, coating and tell me that I really should be putting my attention over here. It's like, it's knowing that. And looking through like our notes too, I thought just bringing it again back to the micro, we kind of started at the micro and then the macro, but like, if you think about the cell, like we have all these toxins like glyphosate and gluten and NSAIDs and, you know, all these things that are destroying the barrier, the gut, the lining of the gut. And the more that a cell, or the less that a cell is able to discern kind of what is for it or what's not, it literally loses its identity of who it is. And that's when you have the breakdown of the cell. So it's just, it really is like such a boundary. Everything is boundaries. So, and so important. And then the other thing that I like when it comes to boundaries, and I think is so important these days, and especially as we're raising children in this time, but is this virtual life that we now have, and that we're all so connected on social media, and that it really is finding, and each of us are different, but finding where those boundaries lie for ourselves and what we're willing to share with the world. It's just a click away where we can have like anything of our lives shared, and what isn't. So, and I would love to hear, I kind of know I know your stance on this and stuff, but just kind of what are your thoughts around all of that?
Yeah. So before I became a nutritionist, I had a public life as an artist. And it was okay with me that my life was public. It is never okay with me that my personal life is public. Therefore, we do not post our children's pictures on any social media platform. I do not allow taking pictures of our kids. Parties, yes, but I do not allow taking pictures for the sake of posting it on social media, because they own your pictures.
Yeah.
Meta and all the other, like, they own the pictures. They shouldn't own a picture of my baby in my womb, nor should they own a picture of a 3-year-old that doesn't even know that his or her picture are on social media for forever and ever, because they own your picture. So I am very firm about that. There's no pictures, at least that I know of, circling around of our children and my personal life. Public life, sure, take pictures of me all you want. I'm good, as long as it's done tastefully and at an event, not obviously my private property.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you have like set those firm boundaries. Like I honestly, I'm still exploring what those boundaries are. Like I know for sure, like, with social media, I've never been like a huge poster person, but I've always had like fun with stories and like to share my day. But I don't, and when my daughter was first born, I kind of shared more frequently. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't know, it felt like such an intimate thing. Like, it's like to share, just share. I mean, and it might be just a silly part of your day, but it's like, it's still like for me. And it was also a little bit weird for me as I was thinking like that, maybe somebody that I've never even met, or maybe know very little, is like seeing all of these things of like what I'm doing, but yet, my dad's not on social media. He's not looking at these pictures. So it's like that a stranger can look at my life and know like what's going on more than he can. It just kind of like, I don't know if I want this. So I'm still, because I know that it's part of the fun, and like, just went on a trip this weekend and I posted a picture, but I will say, I was like, I don't know. I still I'm like, I feel like I still haven't been like, okay, no, I'm going to do like no social media whatsoever with my daughter's face, but I'm starting to kind of get to that point. Like I'm definitely there's things that everybody has their things that, you have to figure out what is sacred to you. And
you are no negotiable. For me, this is no negotiable.
Yeah. And I love that. It's so good. Like whatever decision you come down with, it should come down with intention and that it was thought out.
Right.
I think
absolutely.
I think that's sometimes what we forget is like, it's okay. Whatever your comfort level is okay. We're all going to be different, but have you thought of kind of the implications, or what is it that you do hold sacred? Because that's one thing that, like, another thing that it really resonates me when I think boundaries now is is holding things sacred. Like
Mhm.
not everything is meant to be, I mean, really it's like I mean, it's kind of a negative word, but it's like exploitation. Like what
Mhm.
I feel like we're so, like as a society, we don't hold a whole lot sacred, and set, like
Mhm.
nature is the one that I would, it's like we have forgotten how sacred nature is, and we've exploited it to the point where, I think a lot more people are waking up to it, but
Mhm.
um we've forgotten our boundaries with
Mhm.
and respecting that, like, it's a input output sort of thing. Like um it's like nature is abundant, nature wants to share, but it can get to a point where it's take take take. And I think that it's, relating that back to social media, it's like it's a give and take. It's good to like build community and share things, but at the same time there's certain things that you don't need to share. Not
Mhm.
everything is for everyone. um
Right.
yeah, so um yeah, I think it's just important, as to just be conscious of that. And then also, as our kids get older, like what are they learning of what to share on social media? Because I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't even when my kids, when are old enough to be on like TikTok, or I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't know. It's a whole other thing that I don't even, probably not worth exploring these days. They're right now, but like, it's like, wow, that's learning some boundaries. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
I think that's a lens of consciousness, right? So whatever your decision is in regards to your family and how you want to share your private life, it's okay if it's made from a conscious decision, not an autopilot,
Mhm.
not the blind leading the blind. People do it all the time, so stop and
Right.
pause. So what
Right.
if people do it all the time? That doesn't
Mhm.
mean A, you have to do it, and B, it's on them. And are they doing it because they actually chose to do it? And are they getting paid to post? Is it because it's like a family business like the Kardashians that post? Is it their livelihood?
Yeah.
Are you doing it because they're doing it, or are you doing it because you truly really want to share your life? And if you truly really want to share your life, go for it. The consciousness is different behind it, as opposed to everybody's doing it. I can't think of a statement that is more degrading to our intelligence than everybody's doing it. If I
Yeah.
ask my mom about, we talked one day, we talked about breast augmentation. She was contemplating of doing one. I was like, why would you want to do it in your late 60s? Like what brought about this idea? But my mom is like this, like she wakes up with ideas. And she said, well, everyone is doing it. I said, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, it's really toxic. So we already proven that breast implants are really, really toxic to our body. That's one thing on a healing level. That's not a healing tool for your body at all. Second of
Yeah.
all, everybody is doing it. What are their bodies like? What are their motives behind what they're doing? You don't know their story. Again, going back to unless you walk in someone's shoes, and you're not. You're just seeing an Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or TikTok vain platform of people showing up for the camera. You don't see the arguments before. You really don't see the mess before they plated this beautiful plate. You really
Mhm.
don't see how they communicate with their loved ones. You don't see all of that. Who wants to see real reality? No one,
Yeah.
right? Even the reality shows are not that real. Guess what? They're being edited by amazing editors.
Right.
It's not
Right.
real.
Yeah.
So a conscious lens constantly will get anyone further in life than just doing it because someone else is doing it. It's already been done. Do something new.
Yeah, so true. And actually, like, that's a good point too. Just the whole everybody else is doing it argument, I think, is exacerbated with this social media world, because it's like, it's so easy. Well, first of all, you're following a lot of people who kind of already maybe, I don't know, like echo what your
Mhm.
like, you know, what your values are in a sense, but like it kind of, then it's like, well, so and so, like I see this, they're doing
Mhm.
this, they're doing this, and it's like, yeah, it's like I don't think there's a lot of like stopping to think of like, okay, that's not. Remember, we've all been told that just because everybody else is doing
Right.
it doesn't mean
Right.
that it's.
No.
And it's the same thing. I like when you said the breast augmentation. The other thing I thought of major is Botox, and like whether
Mhm.
you do it or not, that's totally cool, up to you. But I have had friends that are like, well, everybody does it, like, and I don't want to be the one that doesn't get wrinkles. And I'm like, but it's like a toxin in your face. It's like if you consciously make that decision, then great.
Yeah.
But like when you say that, well, because this friend and this friend and this friend does it, so I'm going to do it too. It's like, I just, maybe look at the reason
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
it
The
is. And
real reason. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. And in this world, it's fair. And I'm not putting myself, I have to stop and think about it too. Like it's a natural thing to like, you scroll and this person's saying this and
Mhm.
this, and it's like group think is a for real thing.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many, examples we can take from this, but yeah, social media has just really made that easy to group think, I think. And it's fine if you come to the same decision, but or if you come to a different decision, but
Mhm.
it's like, is it coming from a conscious decision of yours, and how much of it is other people's influence in that? So yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
and social media even has the term influencer. It's like, I mean, they're
Right.
there to influence you
That's right.
to do things. So
Yeah.
and we all influence each other, and that's okay. And again, going back to the boundaries, we're supposed to be in community. We're supposed to be exchanging
Right.
ideas, and but it's that, where do I draw? Where is my line? Where is my boundary of what I'm not going to do and what I am going to do? Yeah, and it's an important thing to recognize, of where your
Absolutely.
boundaries are in every sense of the world, from the micro, keeping those boundaries strong, to what you eat and make sure your cells are, to the macro. Yeah.
Absolutely. The ripple effect. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The consciousness of an individual can create a whole shift of consciousness in a whole nation. That's, to me, that's how it works energetically in our world. It's and it's something that you said before. You said that those influencers, right? And I know a lot of moms in the entertainment industry that even though they show that they have kids, they put, emoji on their faces. So, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah. What
I
are your
talk
thoughts on that?
I think it's it's kind of like, I don't want to use I had an analogy in my mind, but I'm not going to use because it's too vulgar. So let me switch it. It's like dipping your toes in the water. Okay, it's like,
Mhm.
I, I'm gonna go into the water, but I'm just gonna dip my toes there. So I do have children. I wasn't lying, but I'm gonna put emojis so that I'll still
Yeah.
have somewhat of my privacy, because you can't have face detection, right? You can't,
Yeah.
and no one will repost it because no one wants to see a big smiley emoji on the screen. That's not, what is
Right.
this?
That's
So I actually kind of like it. I almost got tempted with doing it, but then I was like, why do I need to do it?
yeah.
But and also being part of the entertainment industry for so long, our kids have agents. And so we got an offer to do something for a big network, for the kids to do something for a big network. And that was a discussion with my husband. Do we want them to do that? Now, our son has been going to auditions since he was 4. And then he decided it's not for him because he hated that the casting director told him what to do. So he's like, I'm not going to do it anymore. But we struggled with it for a little bit. And I said, you know what? If it's for the purpose of inspiring other people and it's done tastefully, they're getting paid for it. And they are getting to decide if they want to be there on that network. And it was for a very specific purpose of inspiring other families to do something. Then I'm okay with it. And
Yeah.
so they voted to do that. They ended up not getting the job, but the kids wanted to do that. And at their ages and within that context of where it was going to, I was okay with that as well. So not to say that we're not going to have their faces ever
Yeah.
anywhere, but that particular platform and medium of inspiring more kids and more families was okay with us.
Yeah. It's the conscious decision. Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
thought it through, and yeah. And the other big distinguishment there is like they weren't showing up as themselves in their lives. You know, it's like it's
Character.
a job, and it's
a job.
a character. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Yep. So true. Yeah. No, I love that. So what else?
So I think maybe that's it for boundaries for this second episode.
I feel like we kind of we ran the gamut.
Yeah. All right. So this was Brooke and Noah coming at you with a second episode of Boundaries, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks.